Hello, everybody. Welcome to the IC Topic Chats. Today is November 2nd, 2023. Jessica Metcalf and I are going to spend some time talking about time tracking and reporting. She's our regular guest host for time tracking. She's got some things she's going to share about automatic time tracking. I'm going to talk just generally about why you should be doing this. But these are the independent consulting IC topic chats. This is a core topic, meaning we do it every single year. We always do this session the first Thursday in November, which happens to be the first Thursday before we have daylight savings time end. So if you're thinking about what needs to happen this weekend, remember to set your clock back on Saturday night before you go to bed. Or if you're like a lot of folks, like when I was at a restaurant, we used to work, and the restaurant was open till 3 a.m. It was a bar, and people would come out and definitely have a good time on that night. They would stay up until 2, which would become 1, and then or 3 until, anyway, everybody would start drinking, and they would be pretty messy by the time they actually left. So I never looked forward to the daylight savings time one, because it gave them an extra hour to find ways to get into trouble. Anyway, we had a good time with all of that back then. But today we're going to talk about time tracking with regards to independent consulting. So let's get started. So slides, there we go. So you can see there's your time situation. We're talking about tracking time today. So why do we do this? I can tell you I didn't used to. I used to feel like this guy here. I said, I'm independent now. I'll get enough contracts to make the work to meet my needs, and I'll just get the work done. And I know a lot of people who still do that. And in some ways, I kind of wish I was still in that situation. I can tell you it's rather tedious. You need to find a tracking system. You need to stay on top of it. You can't just like think about it every week or something like that. You got to stay on top of it day to day. But why would you want to do that? Well, the main reason is it is our currency. Literally, we oftentimes charge by the hour, or I don't really charge by the hour. I estimate by the hour, and then I charge a flat fee on a regular basis. But how am I supposed to know what to charge if I don't know how much time it takes to do things? And now I'm in a situation where I have a firm. And so with the firm, I've got to be a little more careful to connect people's time to the amount of time it takes to do things. If we propose to do a survey for a university or a scholarship program with those students, how long is it going to take me to take for us to design that type of survey? Well, we could guesstimate, but why not estimate based upon real data? I mean, we are data people, so this should be part of what we do and what we think about. So, and I'm going to give an example in just a little bit on how this made literal financial sense for us to do this. What you find is there's a lot of time tracking tools out there. Some of these I think are still around. The one that I use a lot is Toggl. And that's the one in the very center. It's free until you have for your first 5 staff members. So for almost everybody, that's going to make a lot of sense to just do it for free. And you get reporting. You have ways that you can put things in as tags, meaning like, what are you do? You can have multiple tags, meaning I was report writing or I was doing data analysis. But you would put in clients and you put in projects. So a client might be University ABC, and then you might have 2 projects at that university. One's an NSF project and one's an NIH project. And you could be like University ABC client, and then you'd have the project for the NSF project, and you might have one called the NIH project, and you put in an hour or something like that. So this is what it looks like for me. This is from a year ago. But you can see I literally put this, I did a screenshot of what I was doing about a year ago. See my IC topic chat in there. I was working on that in the morning that day, that Thursday, the 4th of November, a couple of years back. I was working on my ROE 33 community partnership grant here. Anyway, so you can see those different items that we put in there. It's just really a drag situation. And I think the other tools out there are kind of like this. And Jessica's going to show her version of these in just a little bit. But in Toggle, so that's my experience, and I think other things are like this, you'll see what does it look like over the last year. So this is 2021. So this for me from 2 years ago with the staff who were here at the time, and how many hours had people clocked. And so this is good for a management perspective. So at a certain point, I started paying because we were above 5. It's painful to pay for software, but it's not too terrible. I'll have to look up if anybody wants to know what it costs, but I think it's something like $10 a month per person. You pay for it for the period of a year, something like that. But this is the way you would do reporting. You can do reporting by project, by client, by task. You can look at just your billable time. If you have other tags you want to look at, you can do that. If you want to look for something specific, like you type into description. So my IC topic chat time, which is probably more plentiful than it ought to be, I type that in as just my description because I call it AEA PD. The client for me is PD, professional development. My project is AEA, and then the description I put in IC topic chat. So I could type that into the description. You can see that in the upper bar up there. But it's good for me to go back and think about what I've done over the last year and use that as an estimate for what I intend to do. So here's some questions that come up and why I think this makes a lot of sense. So 2 years ago, Tom comes to me and says, "Hey, Matt, how much did we charge for that STEMBox program?" And I said, well, I don't know. How about you charge them $800? But wait a second. How much time did you spend on it last year? So we did a report on that STEMBox, is actually called something else. And we found out that he had spent 15 hours and 45 minutes on that project the previous year. Or he spent 15 hours, I spent 45 minutes. And I said, okay, wait a second. What if we multiply that times our billing rate, which was 125 at the time, estimated at 16. So we ended up literally charging $2,000, which made total sense. And they paid it. And so it's, I literally made $1,200 on this that I wouldn't have asked for, because unless I'd stopped to ask myself, well, how much time do we actually spend on this relatively simple project? We also use it for tracking internal time for our staff. So here's another question. Shannon came to me and said, how much PTO time do I have? PTO is paid time off, and everybody can accumulate up to 4 weeks of it per year. And I said, I don't know. So we actually developed a Microsoft Excel report, and this is what it looked like. We actually are still using the same kind of report. And so this is my hours in 2021. And so we just do this fairly simply. It's just a series of Excel, formulas that we probably all know. And you can see I worked quite a bit of extra comp hours, but my PTO hours used that year at that point in time was 8, because I don't use PTO hours because I just worked too many hours. And I had a whole bunch of extra comp time. But this is the way we look at it. And this is all data that comes straight out of a data download that we put directly into our spreadsheets. And this is the part where I go to, hey, Jessica Metcalf, what do you know that we don't know about time tracking? So I'm going to stop my slides, keep the recording going, and I'll let her start sharing her slides.
All right, let's see here if I can get this right and do it smoothly. All right, so are folks seeing the PowerPoint again? Okay, excellent. Thank you, Matt. So hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Metcalf from Green Mountain Evaluation, if we haven't met. And I am here today to talk a little bit about some more automatic and automated options for your time tracking. I think this is an interesting, question to ask of, what do I know that others don't? I think really the reason I came to the issue of automatic time tracking is more just due to, my personal work style and preferences and how I tend to function. So generally speaking, I'm someone that pops around between tasks. If you've met me in person, it may or may not be obvious that I've got some pretty intense ADHD, and I totally, rock it, lean into it. And in some ways, it's part of, the great thing about being self-employed is having the flexibility to kind of go with what works for you. And that's something that I am super passionate about when it comes to, the independent consulting world, is kind of all the bajillion options we have for tailoring our work systems, our work style, our approach to, how we can be most productive and effective. So that's my little spiel. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about some automatic options for time tracking. And I really came to these options because I really struggled with time tracking when I first started out as an independent consultant. I know a lot of folks who really have a lot of success with the type of systems where, maybe you're going to press a button and say, I'm working on project A, and you press a button when you stop, and it keeps track of all that time you spend. That pressing a button component, or writing down what time it was at the beginning and the end, became really challenging for me, just because I do have a tendency to bounce between tasks. I'm in one report and I found a really cool icon that would look great on slide 16 of another report I'm working on. So I needed a system that allowed me to track my time, even though it is often spent in slightly smaller increments. So I'll talk a little bit about, the different options there, and some of the specific ones that I have used. So these are a few different automatic time tracking software options that I have found in my research. I personally use Timely. So in a minute or so, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how Timely works. I have wanted to try several others of these. I think almost all of them have some sort of free trial. So I ended up doing the Timely trial, and it was easy enough that I just, kind of kept going with it. But I think that there are kind of pros and cons to all of these different options. And ultimately, all of these automated tools allow you to track how much time you're spending in each different, document file that you're working on, without you having to do anything actively. It's all passive automatic time tracking. So wanted to show everyone a little bit about Timely and how that works, just to sort of show one option that's out there. So this is the Timely interface. It works in your internet browser, so you don't have to necessarily have a separate program. And what it does is it tracks the amount of time you spend in every single file and folder and email throughout your day. And it'll give you two different view options. This is a timeline that really summarizes nicely, how many minutes you spend in each of these files. And they also, so this is the list view, and then I'm going to switch here to the timeline view. So this is what's open at the same time. And you can see from all this chaos why I need automatic time tracking software, because I will bounce back and forth between different projects. So this service tracks the amount of active time that you're spending in each of these windows. So if you switch from one to the other, even if they're both still, up on your screen, it'll keep track of what file or what document you're actually working in. Oh, don't need to show that again. Here we go. Next slide. All right. And then this video here is just a quick example of how this works. So the first step, you can see on the left there that I wrote up the couple of tasks that I had worked on that day. So I have my little buckets and categories to sort things into. And then I just go through all of these different lists here and say, oh, this PowerPoint was associated with this project. This Excel file was data from this project, and really just drag them into the appropriate location. The other thing to note is that, at least for me, I'll be transparent, there are occasionally things on this list that are not work related. I found out through using automatic time tracking that I check the weather way too often. Living in Vermont, I am always checking, is it going to snow? How much? Am I going to have to get up early to shovel tomorrow morning? So you'll see that once you sort everything for work, if you're like me and you take little breaks, or go on little diversions throughout your day on your computer, there will be some things left over, on your right hand column that, okay, I don't need to sort that because that's personal time. Or you can even decide to track your personal time a little bit more intricately and find out new insights, like I did, about how I check the weather too much. So this is just a quick example of how Timely works. There are a lot of other options that allow you to do some of these similar operations Matt was showing, of calculating, how much on each project, how much on each component, or, during this month or that month. So I won't dive into that too far. And I think those are options that are available on a bunch of these different platforms. I do know that I have plans to check into some of the other ones. Like rescue time is one that I would love to try myself. And this is something I found online of like all kinds of different interesting analyses that you can do within these platforms to see, when you're most productive, when you're working on, which types of tasks. So these are some other cool tools that other platforms may have and, might be worth looking into. I'm pretty sure this one does have a free trial. So it's been on my list to test out, but maybe when I come back next year to talk about time tracking, I'll have insights on a few other programs. And I think that, yep, that's all we've got from me. So I don't know if Matt wants to talk a little bit about the upcoming sessions.
I just posted them in the chat, so thanks for sharing that. And I think I don't have the, I'm not, oh yeah, there's a shared screen. Definitely show up to Becky Garrow's session 2 weeks from now on rapid fire FAQs. Becky, are you here? Maybe you are. I didn't see you yet. Feel free to say something if you are. Next week we're gonna
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, yay, Becky's here. She's probably out like riding a bike, so sorry for interrupting your bike ride, Becky.
Not at all.
Anyway, the long and the short of it is she sent out a survey last week. Feel free to complete that and give her some ideas on things she'd like to learn about or ask about. And that's there. I just put the firm topic out there. This firm topic is, we're going to do this quarterly, a session on what it's like to have a firm, since I'm figuring that out as well. And so we're going to be talking about time, costs, and overhead, kind of like a good follow on from this session. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about next week. I'll figure that out over the next week. You can see the other sessions. Another thing I want you to know is today, in about an hour or two, you're going to get an email through the independent consulting e-group, the listserv thing that we have. If you're interested in presenting next year, let me know. And I would love for some new ideas, some new blood, some new perspectives. If you want to join me on any of these sessions like Jessica has today, I'd love it. Particularly, please, somebody say that they'll help me with the organizational session in May, because I did a terrible job of it last year. It was almost embarrassing. I don't know enough about LLCs. Maybe I should just give that to Kurt Stuke. He should do it. He's better at it than me. But I don't know enough about LLCs and S Corps because I'm an S Corp and I don't think I know the difference. But anyhow, I'd love to hear some more ideas on sessions, and feel free to respond to that and let me know if you're interested. All right. And Jason Rabbits just volunteered to do the session. Is that right, Jason? I think I saw that in the chat. All right. With that, I'm going to stop the recording. We're going to go into the Q&A thing about time. And I'd love to hear some more reflections on your use of time, how you do it, why you don't do it, meaning track time, that is. Okay. YouTube people, see you later. Live people, stick around.